For decades, if you had a broken radio, a busted television, or needed an obscure electronic component to fix literally anything in your house, there was only one place to go. RadioShack wasn't just a store. It was America's electronics emergency room. With over 7,300 locations at its peak in 1999, RadioShack had more retail footprint than McDonald's and Starbucks combined. They were everywhere because they had to be. In an era when electronics were built to last and designed to be repaired, RadioShack was the neighborhood hero that kept America's gadgets running. But what happens when the entire foundation of your business model crumbles overnight? What happens when a culture of repair meets a culture of replacement? What happens when two retail giants decide that fixing things is far less profitable than constantly selling new things? This is the story of how Best Buy and Amazon didn't just compete with RadioShack, they systematically dismantled the entire concept of electronics repair, turning the king of components into a relic of a bygone era. RadioShack's death wasn't just a business failure. It was the murder of an entire philosophy about how we interact with technology. RadioShack's dominance came from solving a fundamental problem that no longer exists. Founded in 1921, the company built its empire on the simple premise that electronics break, and when they do, people want to fix them rather than replace them. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, RadioShack was generating over $2.5 billion in annual revenue by being the go-to source for resistors, capacitors, vacuum tubes, and the thousands of small components that kept America's electronics functioning. They employed knowledgeable staff who could diagnose problems, recommend solutions, and provide the exact parts needed for repairs. Their stores were packed with drawers full of components organized by precise specifications, transformers for every voltage requirement, and cables for every possible connection. This wasn't just retail. It was technical support for an entire nation's electronic infrastructure. RadioShack's business model was so successful that by 1999, they had achieved something remarkable in retail: ubiquity without dilution. Every location was profitable because every location served an essential function in their community. But the electronics industry was already plotting RadioShack's obsolescence, and the first weapon was planned obsolescence itself. Throughout the 1990s, manufacturers began designing products with shorter lifespans, non-replaceable components, and proprietary parts that made repairs either impossible or more expensive than replacement. The average lifespan of consumer electronics dropped from 15 to 20 years to 3 to 5 years, fundamentally altering consumer behavior. When your television lasted 2 decades, spending $50 on parts and repair made perfect sense. When manufacturers started designing televisions to fail after 5 years, that same $50 repair became economically irrational. The shift was subtle but devastating for RadioShack's core business model. By 2003, RadioShack's revenue from individual components had dropped by 40% from their 1999 peak, not because they were losing market share, but because the market itself was disappearing. Consumers were learning a new equation that would prove fatal for RadioShack: when something breaks, throw it away, and buy a new one. Enter Best Buy with a strategy so simple it was genius: make replacement cheaper and more convenient than repair. Best Buy recognized that the future of electronics retail wasn't in fixing old products, it was in constantly selling new ones. They built massive warehouse stores that could display hundreds of televisions, computers, and audio systems side by side, creating a shopping experience that made upgrading feel inevitable. Their Geek Squad service, launched nationwide in 2002, was brilliant psychological warfare against the repair culture. Instead of teaching customers to fix problems themselves, Geek Squad positioned technical knowledge as something only professionals should handle, while simultaneously making their services expensive enough that replacement often seemed more reasonable. Best Buy's average transaction value was $185, compared to RadioShack's $23, and they achieved this by convincing consumers that electronics were fashion items that should be regularly updated rather than tools that should be maintained. By 2005, Best Buy was generating $27 billion in annual revenue, while RadioShack's revenue had stagnated at $4.8 billion, a clear signal that the market was choosing replacement over repair. Amazon's assault on RadioShack was even more sophisticated. They made the expertise that RadioShack provided seem obsolete by democratizing technical information while monopolizing convenience. Amazon's user review system meant that customers no longer needed to rely on RadioShack's knowledgeable staff to understand product specifications or compatibility issues. Thousands of detailed reviews provided more comprehensive information than any single salesperson could offer. But Amazon's real genius was in logistics and pricing. They could offer the same electronic components that RadioShack sold, often at 30–50% lower prices, and deliver them directly to customers' homes within days. RadioShack's primary advantage, convenience through ubiquity, was neutralized by Amazon's superior convenience through delivery. When you needed a specific cable or component, why drive to RadioShack and pay premium prices when you could order the exact same item online for less money and have it delivered to your door? Amazon processed over 15 million electronics component orders in 2007 alone, many of which would have previously gone to RadioShack. The death blow was Amazon's ability to offer infinite selection without the overhead of physical inventory. RadioShack's stores could stock maybe 3,000 different components. Amazon could offer access to over 100,000. RadioShack's management recognized the threat but made every possible wrong decision in response. Instead of doubling down on their expertise and embracing their role as America's electronics repair headquarters, they tried to compete directly with Best Buy and Amazon in markets where they had no competitive advantages. RadioShack began dedicating valuable floor space to cell phones, attempting to become a wireless carrier retailer rather than leveraging their technical expertise to become the place where people went when their phones needed repair. By 2008, over 60% of RadioShack's revenue was coming from cell phone sales and contracts, a business model that put them in direct competition with Verizon stores, AT&T stores, and eventually Apple stores. They were abandoning their monopoly in electronic components to compete in a crowded market where they offered no unique value. Even worse, they began reducing their component inventory and laying off knowledgeable staff to cut costs, eliminating the very assets that had made them irreplaceable. RadioShack was committing strategic suicide, destroying their competitive moats while failing to build new ones. The smartphone revolution that began with the iPhone in 2007 accelerated RadioShack's irrelevance by consolidating dozens of separate electronic devices into single, unrepairable units. Smartphones replaced cameras, music players, GPS devices, calculators, flashlights, radios, and dozens of other electronic gadgets that had previously required separate components and occasional repairs. The iPhone's sealed design and proprietary components made user repairs virtually impossible, while its planned obsolescence cycle encouraged complete replacement every 2 to 3 years. RadioShack had built their business on the assumption that consumers owned many different electronic devices that would occasionally need components or repairs. Smartphones eliminated the need for multiple devices while making repair impractical, destroying both sides of RadioShack's value proposition simultaneously. By 2012, smartphone adoption had reached 58% of American adults, and RadioShack's component sales had dropped to just 15% of their total revenue, down from 65% in 1999. They were no longer an electronics repair company. They were a failing cell phone retailer with an expensive overhead structure designed for a different era. Best Buy and Amazon's final coordinated assault came through their embrace of the subscription and service economy that made ownership itself seem outdated. Best Buy's Total Tech membership program and Amazon Prime created ecosystems where constant upgrading was not just encouraged, but financially incentivized. Prime members received exclusive discounts on new electronics, while Amazon's trade-in programs made disposal and replacement more convenient than repair. Best Buy's Geek Squad evolved from a repair service into an upgrade consultation service, explicitly recommending replacement over repair for devices more than 3 years old. Their internal metrics showed that Geek Squad generated more revenue by selling new products than by fixing old ones, creating perverse incentives that actively worked against repair culture. Meanwhile, Amazon's recommendation algorithms became sophisticated enough to predict when customers' electronics would fail and proactively suggest replacements. By 2015, Amazon was sending targeted emails to customers suggesting television upgrades based on their purchase history and average product lifespans, often arriving weeks before customers experienced any problems with their current devices. This wasn't customer service, it was orchestrated obsolescence designed to maximize replacement cycles. RadioShack's death spiral accelerated through a series of desperate pivots that only highlighted how completely they had misunderstood their situation. In 2014, they attempted to rebrand as The Shack and focus on mobile accessories, abandoning even their name recognition in electronics repair. They partnered with Sprint to create store-within-store concepts that eliminated most of their component inventory to make room for phone displays. RadioShack was essentially paying rent to become a Sprint kiosk in their own stores, cannibalizing their profitable repair business to subsidize their unprofitable wireless business. Their final years were marked by bizarre marketing campaigns that seemed to mock their own legacy, including a Super Bowl commercial where they literally demolished their old store format. By 2017, RadioShack had closed over 5,000 locations and filed for bankruptcy twice, with their remaining stores generating less than $500 million in annual revenue. The company that had once been America's electronics repair headquarters had become a footnote, a collection of struggling cell phone retailers operating under a name that no longer represented their actual business. The murder of RadioShack represents something far more significant than the failure of a single retailer. Best Buy and Amazon didn't just outcompete RadioShack, they systematically dismantled the entire culture of repair and maintenance that had sustained American consumers for decades. They convinced an entire generation that electronics are disposable commodities rather than durable goods worthy of maintenance and care. The average American household now generates over 47 pounds of electronic waste annually, compared to just 12 pounds in 1999, directly reflecting the shift from repair culture to replacement culture. RadioShack's death coincided with the rise of planned obsolescence as standard business practice, the elimination of user-serviceable components in most electronics, and the creation of artificial barriers to repair through proprietary tools and software locks. Today's consumers live in a world where fixing a broken device often costs more than replacing it, where manufacturers void warranties for attempted repairs, and where the technical knowledge that RadioShack's employees provided has been deliberately obscured behind corporate service departments designed to encourage replacement rather than repair. The skills and infrastructure for electronics repair still exist, but they've been relegated to specialty markets and hobbyist communities rather than serving as the foundation of mainstream consumer electronics culture. RadioShack's corpse serves as a monument to how completely Best Buy and Amazon transformed not just retail, but our entire relationship with technology. We now live in their vision of the future, where constant consumption has replaced careful maintenance, where technical literacy has been sacrificed for user-friendly interfaces, and where the idea of fixing something yourself seems quaint rather than practical. RadioShack wasn't just murdered by two competitors, it was executed by an entire economic philosophy that prioritizes growth through replacement over sustainability through repair. The store that once fixed America's gadgets became a casualty of the very disposable culture that now defines our relationship with technology. In killing RadioShack, Best Buy and Amazon didn't just eliminate a competitor, they eliminated an entire way of thinking about electronics, ownership, and our responsibility to maintain the tools that define modern life. The next time your phone breaks and you automatically assume you need to buy a new one, remember that this wasn't always how things worked, and RadioShack's empty storefronts stand as monuments to the murder of the alternative.